Oops, she did it again. Suella Braverman advocates a tough cause against migrants, and she warns of a hurricane coming to Great Britain now. So British Home Secretary Suella Braverman has once again spoken out against immigration with drastic words. The winds of change that carried my parents across the globe in the 20th century were but a gust compared to the hurricane that is heading our way, is what Braverman said on Tuesday at the governing Conservative Party conference in Manchester. A year ago, the hardliner, herself a child of immigrants, called the arrival of irregular migrants an invasion. Wind of change is a thing stolen from Germany and the unification, by the way. But Braverman also criticized the Human Rights Act, which enshrines human rights from the European Convention on Human Rights in Great Britain. I'm surprised they didn't call this the Criminal Rights Act, said Braverman, and I sometimes don't know what to say. But she emphasized that the country is entangled in a dense web of international rules that were made for a different time. JRM's time? Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's Conservatives are currently well behind the opposition Labour Party in the polls, and the British are expected to elect a new parliament next year. And Braverman is said to have ambitions to replace Sunak as party leader in the event of an election defeat. According to observers, that would definitely move the Tories even further to the right. During Braverman's speech, a man was escorted out of the hall by security guards after making critical comments. According to media reports, it was party member Andrew Boff. The London City Council member told the PA's news agency that Braverman's speech made the Conservative Party appear anti-trans and anti-gay. The party has long advocated for LGBTQ+ rights, and the Interior Minister is destroying this record. At the same time, there is evidence to suggest that skilled EU workers are staying away from post-Brexit Britain. Braverman might play a role there. For example, a report by the Migration Observatory at the University of Oxford found that the number of EU citizens applying for work visas in the UK fell by 70% in the year after Brexit. The report also found that the number of EU citizens leaving the UK was higher than the number of EU citizens arriving in the UK in 2020 and 2021. Another report by the National Institute of Economic and Social Research found that the share of skilled workers in the UK workforce has fallen since Brexit. The report also found that the number of EU citizens working in high-skilled occupations in the UK has fallen since Brexit. These reports suggest that there is a decline in the number of skilled EU workers in the UK since Brexit. This is likely due to a number of factors, including the more restrictive immigration rules, the reduced attractiveness of the UK, and the increased opportunities elsewhere in the EU. However, it's important to note that there is no definitive answer to the question of whether skilled EU workers are staying away from post-Brexit Britain for certain reasons. The evidence is mixed, and there are a number of factors that could be influencing the decision of skilled EU workers to move to or from the UK, of course. More research is needed to better understand the impact of Brexit on skilled EU migration to the UK. But the current evidence suggests that there is indeed a significant decline in the number of skilled EU workers in the UK since Brexit and because of Brexit. But there are a number of reasons why skilled EU workers are staying away from post-Brexit Britain. As I mentioned, the more restrictive immigration rules. After Brexit, EU citizens are subject to the same immigration rules as non-EU citizens for the EU, which are more restrictive than the free movement rules that were in place before. This means that skilled EU workers now need to apply for visas to work in the UK, and that process can be complex and expensive. Then there's the mentioned reduced attractiveness of the UK. The UK is no longer as attractive to skilled EU workers as it was before Brexit. This is due to a number of factors, including the weaker pound, the political uncertainty surrounding Brexit, and the perception that the UK is a less welcoming place for immigrants. And there are increased opportunities elsewhere in the EU. The EU is a large and prosperous single market, and there are many opportunities for skilled workers to find good jobs in other member states. This is especially true in countries like Germany, France, and the Netherlands, which have economies that are growing faster and faster, even with some digits in it, but they don't count. In addition to these general factors, there are also some specific reasons why skilled EU workers may be avoiding certain sectors of the UK economy. For example, the healthcare sector is facing a severe shortage of staff, but many EU nurses and doctors are now choosing to work in other EU countries where the pay is better and the working conditions are much more attractive. The impact of these factors is that the UK is now struggling to attract and retain skilled EU workers. This is having a negative impact on many sectors of the economy, including healthcare, hospitality, and construction. And there are still some additional reasons why skilled EU workers may be staying away from post-Brexit Britain. And one of them is the increased bureaucracy and paperwork. As I said, skilled EU workers now have to go through more bureaucracy and paperwork to work in the UK. And this can be a time-consuming and frustrating process, and it definitely deters people from even applying for jobs in the UK. And of course, there's the increased cost of living. The cost of living in the UK has been rising steadily in recent years, and this has made it less attractive to skilled EU workers. This is especially true for workers with families who may find it difficult to afford to live in the UK on a single income. And then there's the reduced sense of belonging, so to speak. Many skilled EU workers who have lived in the UK for many years now feel less welcome and less at home in the UK since Brexit. This is due to the anti-immigrant rhetoric that was used during the Brexit campaign, as well as the rhetoric nowadays and the government's decision to end free movement for EU citizens. Overall, there are lots of reasons why skilled EU workers are staying away from post-Brexit Britain. The UK government needs to address these issues. If it wants to attract and retain the skilled workers, it needs to support its economy. But Suella Braverman is definitely not helping with that. And if you want to see another video right now, subscribe to this channel or visit me on my newest channel, which is doing really well. You see all of this here in the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.